Go ahead and put Joe Mazzulla up for Coach of the Year because I had them completely out of it.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast on location in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, the global authority of coaching leadership where coaching wisdom meets real talk. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Wind Up Wednesday edition, Segment 1, Two Big Stories, NBA Midseason Awards, and Jonathan Kuminga would like a trade. Segment 2, the madness after the madness, shrinking window of the transfer portal for basketball, and we had a gambling story in the news this week. We're a little concerned about that, shockingly. And in segment 3, we'll talk about the new NIL sheriff, so to speak. We'll talk about the FTC coming into play, as well as more information on the Global Project B launch as the WNBA and its union continues to negotiate. So we'll see what happens with that. With us today, the one who got away, our basketball correspondent, Danny Thompson, our international correspondent, Francois, and our favorite administrator is here, Robert Abney. Gentlemen, let's get to the OCP top 6 with the NBA in the Eastern Conference. Pistons 1, Boston 2, Knicks 3, Raptors 4, and Magic is 5. Cleveland is 6, and Cleveland is highly, highly, highly disappointing. Hottest teams, Cavs and the Celtics. Danny, what are you thinking about this week with the Eastern Conference and the NBA?
Two things. One, I know we're going to talk about, midseason awards, in the next segment. But can we go ahead and start pitch? I got 2 awards where 2 people are coming out. They're both in the Eastern Conference. Go ahead and put Joe Mazzulla up for Coach of the Year because I had them completely out of it. Not even in the top 2. Now they're a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference. I'm going in by what they're saying. You got everybody pretty much playing the same exact way, just with much better, fluidity on the floor nowadays this season. And then I'm going to put my bid, if I had to vote, Anthony Black for most improved player. It's time to go ahead and start recognizing what he's doing for Orlando and what they're doing right now in the East. I'm not saying they're going to be a world beater and coming out of the Eastern Conference to go to the NBA Finals. It's just you need to pay attention to what they're doing down there because that young core that they have is already causing problems for people in the East. And with Anthony Black coming in, you got Franz Wagner coming back from injury. Orlando's going to make some noise as the season goes on.
All right, we'll go to the West. Number 1, OKC. Number 2, the Spurs. 3, Denver. 4, Minnesota Timberwolves. 5, Rockets. And 6, Lakers. They continue to go the other way in the rankings. Hottest teams, OKC, Clippers, Nuggets, Portland, and Golden State. They all have won 7 out of their last 10 games in some shape, fashion, or form. FD, in terms of the West, any thoughts this week? And welcome back, sir.
Yeah, very happy to be back, and to be back to the show. And the Western Conference is very, very, very predictive because you have 2 great teams. I think OKC and the Spurs are going to be in the top of the seed. They're going to be in the Western Conference final. And yeah, OKC is playing very, very well since the start of the season. They have played very well without Williams. He's back now. The team is playing again better. They had a small moment where they lose some game, but this is normal and it is good for them right now. And the Spurs, this team is surprising me with, it is a young team. You have some old players like Harrison Barnes, Darren Fox, but with those young core, Stephen Castle and Harper, they understand how to play together. So I think this team will be very surprising at the end of the season. Denver is still playing, this type of basket using the gravity of Nikola Jokić, and he's playing very well with him. And yeah, I think those 3 teams are going to be the top of the seed. But if I have to put some money, I would put that on the San Antonio Spurs.
All right. So now our story of the week. It is that time of year, so please forgive the 2 old men on the panel. It is the NBA Midseason Awards. We are getting to the All-Star break pretty soon. We're going to start trading some players. So we're just going to wrap around, and I'm going to give each of our panelists an award, and they tell me their thoughts. Danny, I'm going to start with you. MVP, you got SGA versus the injury list. SGA is currently the heavy favorite, but Jokic has played so well. But the injury piece. So at this midway point, Danny, who do you have as the MVP of the league?
It's not SGA, it's Jokic. Jokic is on his way to averaging a 30-point triple double before the injury got started. Denver was a top 2 team in the Western Conference before Jokic went down and San Antonio took that spot. I get the 65 game threshold. We've talked about this in the past. You know how much we hate the 65 game threshold. I may be the youngest person on the panel, but I'm also an old man at heart. I just if the player is playing the best basketball, if he's the most valuable player on the court when you look at everyone playing in the league, why not give it to him? I understand this whole 65 game threshold is what the league is doing to stop, this tanking, players resting and all these players who ain't playing enough games, getting these awards. You can't deny it at this point that Jokic is clearly the most valuable player because, granted, Denver is still playing well. Look where Denver would be if he were on the floor. So I'm not going to sit here and say SGA is not going to be at the top of this because more than likely the voters are going to pick SGA at this point. For me, though, you can't deny Jokic's value for Denver when he's on the floor. Everything seems to move better when he's on the floor. The ball movement, the efficiency, even the defense is better with him on the floor. I know people say he can't guard a cone, he can't jump over a curve. Yet when he's on the floor, Denver's defense is one of the best defenses in the league. So for me, I know they don't want to do the whole threshold thing, but you can't deny Jokic is the MVP.
All right, FD, I'm going to give you Defensive Player of the Year. Is it Wemby? Is it Rudy Gobert? Is it Chet Holmgren? Who do you think is the Defensive Player of the Year at the midway point?
Yeah, that's difficult because when you want to see the best defensive player, how do you evaluate that? Do you think about defensive rating? Because if you think about defensive rating, you're gonna say Rudy Gobert is best because when he's playing, the teams have 20 more less points. When you think about impacting the game on defense and deciding that, you will also think about, other player like Damon Green. But for me, I think the best defensive player is Victor Wembanyama because not only the defensive rating, but how he can impact dissuade every player to go to the paint, how we can impact the team to be, the team, how we can impact how the opposing team play on offense. So yeah, I think Victor Wembanyama is a little bit ahead of those two like Chet and Rudy Gobert.
All right, now Robert, I'm dragging us in this one. Rookie of the Year. This is odd, so I'm going to say it. Wow, we've got 2 Duke guys going for Rookie of the Year at this early point. Cooper Flagg for the Mavs, who you get to see in passing on TV a lot because it's local. He's the current favorite. But Knueppel from the Hornets, I'm surprised that he's done so well. If you're picking, who would you pick as Rookie of the Year?
Well, I haven't seen Knueppel at all. So I get to see, like as you said, I get to see Cooper Flagg fairly regularly. So he, the way his game has evolved to just in 1 year from what he was asked to do at Duke to what he's being asked to do right now is pretty, it's pretty significant. And he, he's still young. It's still going to take him some time, but the way his game has evolved is pretty impressive. I don't. First of all, I have to get in my pot shot. Why are we doing this? We have to have something to talk about with the NBA, I guess. Sorry. If I were going to pick, I would pick Cooper Flagg.
Okay. And we can't be the Odd Coaches podcast. I love Rob. We can't be the Odd Coaches podcast without talking about Coach of the Year. Danny, before we really dive into Golden State, who do you think should be the Coach of the Year right now, sir?
I've been on Detroit's high horse all season. I mean, I know it's mid-season. We want to see how these guys are going. We might as well just look at Joe Mazzulla for what he's doing in Boston, as I stated when we were talking about the top five. I did not peg Boston as being a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference right now. I didn't think they were going to get this far. I knew they were going to be, top 4, but not second best team in the Eastern Conference. Remember, everyone was on New York, New York, New York. They were on Cleveland for the longest. Is just right now New York inconsistent, Cleveland disappointment. It's a 2-horse race for me right now. It's between Mazzulla and Bickerstaff in Detroit. And if I had to go with one, I'd probably go with Mazzulla because he's, as I already stated, Boston is playing with a lot more fluidity. The ball is moving. Because I know we like to put Jason Tatum on this pedestal because he's one of the top players in the league, as much as people want to do that for him. I think Jaylen Brown is their best player. Jaylen Brown is a defender player. He's a defensive player, and he's a guy who can go get you 25 a night, along with 7 rebounds and maybe 5 or 6 assists a night. Boston is doing well because Mazzulla is leading that team on the floor with his coaching style. So if I had to pick one, it'd be Mazzulla.
All right. So now let's get to our second story of the week and the most predictable story we have all NBA season, in my opinion. Jonathan Kuminga would like a trade. So, Robert, after starting the first 12 games of the season, he's got a bunch of DNP CDs. That is, did not play coach's decision. We have talked about it at length in terms of how Golden State has just mismanaged this young man's career. When they picked up Jimmy Butler, we said on the air, I don't think this is going to work out. So, Robert, I'm going to come to you first. This is on your desk now. How do we deal with Jonathan Kuminga?
Well, we've kind of done it to ourselves, really. I mean, the Warriors have done this to themselves. He's requested a trade. They clearly don't want him because if they did, he would be on the floor. But you've diminished his trade value because he's not on the floor. And nobody has any idea if he's healthy, not healthy, anything like that, because he's not on the floor. And he's requested a trade. So if you're lucky enough to get anything for him, it's highly likely that it's not going to be I wouldn't expect that it would be especially helpful to the Warriors, other than the fact that he would be gone. They talk about wanting to get, expiring contracts. Seems awful specific for, again, a piece that has low trade value. I don't know what they're going to do with this. I mean, I guess they could just let him hang out at the end of the bench, but you really don't want to do that. There's nothing good that comes from that. All he's going to do is create further issues. And, it's really too bad because he is talented. We've all seen flashes where he fits in with what the Warriors do. But he obviously has gotten crosswise, not just of Jimmy Butler, but also of Draymond and Steph, would be my guess. Because if he's not sitting and you're not getting either of those guys saying anything about him sitting, that's likely what has happened, would be my guess.
All right. So we have a management perspective. FD is currently coaching international basketball. Admin has said we're not playing this guy. Steve Kerr has been on the record saying this is a difficult, delicate situation. FD, you're coaching right now. This is on your desk. How are you dealing with this as a coach?
Yeah, I think it is a trust situation, and I think the coaching staff of the Warriors lose trust on Kuminga for many situations. The last was when he did not play against OKC. It was not the staff decision. It was his decision. He said he was not healthy to play. But before that, I think how the Warriors is playing, everything is on the gravity of Stephen Curry, and Kuminga is a player who need the ball. He need to be a man. He's not like Damon Green, Poznienski. He's not those type of player. I think he did not fit with the Warrior style of play. And this situation, on my point of view, was supposed to be done 1 or 2 years ago, and it is still going on, going on. And now, like Robert said, I agree with him. His trade value is now going down, and it's going to be very difficult to the Warriors to find a team who can bring value of what he is actually right now.
Yeah. And finally, I'm going to Danny. Danny's the player. This is your everyday. Still, he can play. But for whatever reason, he's in the way. How are you dealing with this on the court, Danny, at practice, shoot-arounds, and in games where this guy is just sitting? And when you're sitting, hey, fans, when you're sitting and you think you can play, it's a long 48 minutes. Danny, what are you thinking about the Kuminga situation from the player perspective?
From that standpoint, I'm looking to find a way to get out of here. It's no point in keeping me on this roster. You have me starting, like you said, the first 12 games. And in those 12 games, I was balling for you. I was doing everything that was necessary for us to win games to start the season. And then next thing you know, I think it was like you see, past 13 games, he has not played. What is going on? First is first, as I would start asking, what do I need to do at this point if I'm not thinking about getting out of it? What do I need to do to help make this team a winner? I mean, we've already seen Jimmy Butler is sold on Kuminga. Kuminga calls Jimmy Butler. Butler's looking at Kuminga like a little brother at this point. So he knows he can play. They know he can play. But then I'm also wondering, what are y'all not saying that's helping me get on the floor? Because I affect winning in a point where you don't have to space me out, where I don't have yes, I need the ball in my hands, but I'm not one of those players who's just going to sit off the ball and just wait for, off ball movements and screens and this, that, and the third. It's something that it's not in my game. Everything that else can do can help this team win. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, it's time for me to leave. This does not service my growth as a player. This does not service this team as far as winning goes. And I'm with FD. This should have been, maybe I should have found my way out years ago, because this whole trying to build around Steph, knowing Steph is on borrowed time at this point with his age, it's time to start, bringing me in, trying to bring me into the fold. But if you're not doing that, I'm thinking it's time for me to go. So
And in Kuminga's defense, he couldn't leave until like this week because of contractual obligations with the league and the dates and the this, that, and the other. So, this is not fun.
I want to add something about Kuminga, and now it's about an analytics standpoint. With Kuminga, the Warriors are 10-8, offensive rating 115, and defensive rating 115.4. Without Kuminga, they are winning 1% more, 14-11, but more efficient with the offensive rating, 129.7, and better in the defensive rating, 111.8. Why I want to say that is, okay, Kuminga is a very talented player, great player, but as a coaching standpoint, when you look about analytics, you're going to say, okay, maybe he's a good player, but does not fit of how we want to play, how we want to be effective. So I just bring that in the table just about what you think. Maybe there's some factual, analytic thinking about those decisions.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up. You picked them. Okay, with that, in segment 2, we're going to talk about the new transfer portal rules with college basketball. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Today's student athletes face pro-level challenges without pro-level support. The CKA SAVE project is here to change that. For 16 plus years, Dr. Keith Adams and his team have provided comprehensive academic and athletic support from middle school through post-graduation transitions. NIL guidance, transfer portal navigation, academic coaching, career planning, they've got it covered. The CKA SAVE project, When your future is on the line, experience matters. Learn more at www.ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Ad Coaches Podcast in segment 2. Let's get to the honorable coach franchise hating net rankings. 1 for the men's side, Michigan. 2, Duke. 3, Arizona. 4, Gonzaga is back up there from the West Coast Conference. And 5, Purdue. Shout out to Dr. King and his wife at Tate. That's an inside joke. Mid-majors, Utah State is 21 from the Mountain West. From Robert, I only have them in there once. St. Louis is 22. St. Mary's is 32. New Mexico is 40, and Santa Clara is 44. Robert, before we get started, what's up with all these West Coast teams in the mid-majors doing it? The East Coast is going to be really mad come tournament time. Anything that we need to know about?
Well, I one thing I will say is that, Utah State was 15 and they lost. We're taping on Sunday. They lost Friday or Saturday night. I don't remember either one of those 2 nights, but they went from 15 to 21. And that's life in a group of 5 conference. I mean, the margin of error is very
Razor thin.
very thin. So these guys, New Mexico is sitting there at 40, and 41 is Texas, who's 10-7. And Texas is not even in the top 12 of the SEC right now, but they're 41. So that conversation will be had later on, and there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth, by many people because of said net rankings. But the Lobos have played well. Utah State has played well. They're both very good. New Mexico won at San Diego State on Saturday night. And, but that margin for error is very thin. You can't go on the road and lose at Air Force, for example. You do that, you're done.
And I don't want to hear about it come March, but we're going to hear about it. Yeah. All right. Thank you. This is why we have our show. Okay. Story of the week. Part 1, the madness after the madness. This past week, the NCAA Division I cabinet officially shortened the basketball transfer window to 15 days and delayed the start of it until the day after the national championship game. So let me tell you really quickly what this means. The old rule was 30 days starting after the second round of the NCAA tournament, and that was an absolute disaster. The new rule is 15 days starting April 6th for the women and April 7th for the men. The intent is to stop the distraction, air quote, of players entering the portal, wait for it, while their teams or their opponents were still competing in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, or Final Four. The cabinet also changed the loophole regarding coaching changes to prevent the mass exodus before a new leader is even in the building. So you have this 5-day cooling period. So when a coach is fired or leaves, the transfer window doesn't open immediately. It opens 5 days after the new coach is hired. The goal is to give the new coach a 5-day grace period to meet with the roster, try to recruit their own players to stay before they can officially leave, and the 30-day fail-safe. If a school doesn't hire a replacement within 30 days, the portal opens for those players on the 31st day anyway. So with that, before we go to the players and the coaches, I'd like to talk to my administrator, Robert. This just came across your desk. Is this good? Did we finally get it right? What are you thinking?
I think it helps. I think if you if you're at least taking it, taking the transfer portal away from the tournament, I think that will help. Especially because the transfer portal for basketball, they don't have that they don't have the excuse that they use for football that, they've got to start their semester with the new school. They're not doing that in basketball, right? They're just, so I think it will help. I also think that change with the the coaching clause. I to me that makes sense. I think that's going to get tested in court. I really do, because there are going to be kids who say, "Why do I have to wait? I could go now. My opportunities now." But also, give the new guy a chance to talk to the players, give them a chance. And if the players say, "No, dog, I'm out," okay, cool. But at least then you've had a chance for them to have the conversation. And if after 30 days they haven't hired somebody, they can go in the portal anyway. I like it. It makes sense. I think it's going to get tested. I think somebody's going to sue over it, though, and I'm not sure that it's going to hold up.
Billable hours are undefeated. Danny, I'm going to come to you as the player who actually went through something similar during your career. When you see the changes, what do you think?
I think it's gonna be beneficial for as I don't know, it's benefits to this, but I'm also looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, now I have time to weigh out my options, to look at who do I want to possibly go play for. Because now, with the window opening up after the tournament, I can now sit back and evaluate what schools I want to play for, what coaching staff I want to go have me, mold my game a little bit better to see what play style I would fit going into the next season if I do decide to jump into the portal. It's beneficial to the player, but then again, it's also big because now I have to sit back and think, well, what if this school I want to go to, the coach ups and leaves? Now I have to really sit back and evaluate. But see, this whole 15-day window, it speeds up the process almost to the point now where I'm like, okay, let's say, for all intents and purposes, let's say, for example, I'm looking to transfer to Iowa State, right? Let's say they have the season that I expected them to have, and I'm like, all right, I want to go there, but then their coach leaves. Now I have to sit back and look at my options a little bit deeper now. But again, I don't have that much time to look at this because it wanes a little bit, because at most times I'm not, what if I'm in the tournament right now? Then I really don't have those options. So it varies depending on what player and what program you're at, because if you're still in the tournament, you don't have time to evaluate options as far as jumping in the portal. If you're not in the tournament, you have all the time in the world to think about this. So there's some pros and there's some cons to it. I tend to go with the pros a little bit more, but that's only if I'm still playing. And then I'm not playing, as if I'm not playing. So as a player, it can be beneficial, and it all depends on how you manage the time, especially jumping into the portal.
Something else that should be noted about the portal, and I don't know the numbers for basketball, but I just saw something recently on portal numbers for football. Between FBS, FCS, Division II, Division III, more than 10,000 players entered the transfer portal. As of right now, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 players have a home. That means that somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 players haven't landed anywhere. And we know that a whole bunch of those guys won't land anywhere. So what they've done is they've given up their opportunity for an education that's paid for. They've given up on opportunity to develop as a player and potentially get better and transfer later on. They've given up all of those potential relationships that you can use later on in your life because they wanted to hit the portal, and they either got bad advice or they got no advice. They just said, I'm going. And that is, that's one of the things I think that nobody talks about when it comes to the portal, is that you got all these guys who just jump and don't land anywhere because there's nowhere for them to land.
And to
So-
close this segment, similar to the first one, when your future's on the line, experience matters. And as will say, Coach Adams will tell you, sometimes you've got to put your big boy pants on and make a real decision. And if you pick wrong, you've got to live with it. And with that, we're going to move our Charlie Baker talk to segment 3, along with trying to enforce a lot of this. Just call us for help. Our rates are reasonable. We'll be right back on the Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CK Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches Podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Eye Coaches Podcast in segment 3. Let's get the women's net rankings out of the way before we overly legify the show. So number 1, UConn. 2, UCLA. 3, South Carolina. 4, Texas. 5, LSU. Not a lot of movement. And then the mid-majors. Princeton is the highest ranked mid-major at 38 in the Ivy. North Dakota State is 44 in the Summit. South Dakota State is 48 in the Summit. Again, what's going on in the western part of the country basketball-wise? Richmond is 49 in the A-10, and Fairfield is 50 in the MAC. But let's get back to our stories of the week. So at the NCAA convention, Charlie Baker, NCAA president, is making an emergency plea to federal regulators. We were all over D.C. To halt the prediction market from offering trades on college sports. In addition, the FTC is getting involved in college sports, the Federal Trade Commission, and we had a huge gambling story last week with 20 some odd teams getting involved. We're also talking about the College Sports Commission has rejected 10% of the NIL deals because they, wait for it, lack valid business purposes. They warehouse student athletes' rights, and there's an issue of fair market value. The CKA Save Project offers a virtual internship program, and that's part of the reason why we're here at the University of North Carolina, to see our interns compete. And our interns had to follow all of the rules and regulations in terms of the business purposes and fair market value. It's a lot going on. So I'm going to, go to our administrator. Robert, you got the NCAA president just screaming, help me. You've got the FTC involved. You got a major gambling probe. When you see all of this from the administrative standpoint, what are you thinking, Robert?
Well, I think the first thing that needs to be said, because we say it all the time, is what did you think was going to happen? Because you have 18 to 25-year-old kids, boys, who it's available on their phones, and they can do it. And these guys, they have a little bit of money because of NIL, and it's real easy to lose all that in a heartbeat. And then what do you do? And then what are you going to do? It's also worth remembering that, it's great that Charlie Baker is asking, Congress, et cetera, for help. But it's useful to remember that, DraftKings, et cetera, the prediction markets, they have lobbyists too. And they're probably better paid than yours. So this is one of those, I mean, you opened Pandora's box, and I don't know how you put any of this back. The FTC to me is not the answer, because after Doge, let's be honest, I'm not sure the FTC still exists in any enforcement type of arm. I don't know. But this is, I mean, we knew this was going to happen. We've had conversations about this. We knew this was going to happen. And I don't know how you put this back. I don't know how you get this back under control. I really don't, because, I mean, short of congressional legislation, and let's be honest, Congress has a lot of other things that they should be paying attention to right now. Short of congressional intervention, I don't know what you do with this.
All right, so I'm gonna go to our coach. And fans, Francois is an international coach, and he also serves as a scout, and he helps identify players. This is all new to you because you're under a different system, Francois. When you see all of this, what do you think?
Yeah, it is a different process in France, and sometimes we have time to adapt and understand how it's happening. What I think, I don't want to go in particular, but in general, what I think is that the system, when it happens, when you are a player or you are a coaching staff, you have to adapt on the situation and make sure that you get the most of that. So we have so many French players coming from France now, going to play in college basketball and trying to get in on those league. So now it is different from year before. And not what we're trying to do is just them to make sure they just fix every regular rules, and just get them ready to adapt in this new environment.
Yeah. Danny, you're a player. Again, you got the NCAA president, you got the FTC, you got NIL deals that are non-regulated. Wow, it's a lot. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, I said this back when we were talking about the basketball gambling pro. History repeats itself. And then also, I said this in outside conversations in the past. It was only a matter of time before all this stuff was going to catch up to the NCAA. And lo and behold, it has reared its face out for the whole public to see. As far as like all this gambling stuff goes, I think this is where the NIL misses the boat with mid-major schools. Because if you look at the 26 players indicted, all of these players go to mid-major programs that do not have like high NIL deals or alumni who come in and help provide money for said NIL programs. So all of these guys are looking like, okay, y'all offer me this much amount of money, and all I have to do is just play bad for a couple games so y'all can make hundreds of thousands of dollars and I can see a profit of this. As a player, and most players nowadays, they're like, all right, I'm with it. The money's coming in easily. I don't have to worry about, X amount things happening to me. The money was there, and it just showed. And then also, whenever the federal government is involved when it comes to sports, it's never a good thing. You saw what happened when they got involved with steroid allegations in baseball. You see what happens when they're getting involved in collective bargaining agreements. And now you're telling me they're going to start putting their hand into the bucket, which they've always been trying to do when it comes to college sports and regulating things. And it's never a good look. And as Robert already said, they have other things that they need to be worried about right now. And trying to regulate college sports should not be on their priority list. It just shouldn't be. So I think at this point, players just need to be mindful of what's going on, what is happening to us, and what's happening to the sport that we play. Because at some point in time, if all these different entities get involved, it's going to affect the game at some point where some players are going to get turned off by it.
Yeah. All right. So our last segment talks about Project B. So Danny, I'm gonna go to you first. WNBA still does not have an agreement. Project
Shocker.
B is moving forward. Tokyo will be the first stop in the Formula One style of Project B. I shared with you some information. When you see that Project B is moving forward, when you see that WNBA players are going to be involved, not all of them, but a lot of them, what are you thinking as our paralegal who's been following the WNBA CBA negotiations for literally the last 6 months? And it has been literally the last 6 months.
And yeah, it's been 6 months of me trying to read up on a lot of different movements and different changes that's coming down the pipe. As someone who's a fan of Formula One, I'm intrigued by this setup that Project B is doing. It's different. It's a way to get more players involved. The only thing that kind of throws me off is literally the fact that it ends literally maybe a few weeks before the WNBA training camp starts. So that means some of these players don't get a lot of time to rest and recover from when this tournament style league is over. Because a lot of these women, as soon as the season's over, they're going to another country to already play. And then they come back, usually around like December, January. Now you got Unrivaled. Okay. Now you got Athletes Unlimited, which starts next month. Now in 2026, 2027, that's Project B. So from a player standpoint, I'm looking at it from an attrition standpoint. Can a lot of these players hold up physically now that they're playing pretty much year round without any sort of break in between these seasons that they're playing? That's been my main focus. Now, as far as the CBS stuff goes, I mean, Rebecca Lobo, and you sent this to me in a text message. The quote that Rebecca Lobo stated that the language that the players are using can start to turn off average fans who watch the WNBA. Because now the league, I saw what the league proposed, and I think that's not a bad idea. Because you got to think the league is looking at it from an expense standpoint, but also we also know, and I agree with the players in this standpoint, you're saying this because you're hiding some profit. So let's be real. So again, are the players in the league going to come together in time before the free agency period starts, where we can get a good CBA in place for these players to have their season? Because again, if not, I said this last week, I'll say it again this week. It's going to get to the point where the players of the union are going to call for a strike, and then there won't be a season. But these players have all these different options. Now you throw in Project B, hell, they might as well go ahead and make those millions of dollars playing in that tournament. And then mind you, make more money playing overseas, because now these players have to come. They don't have to necessarily come back in time for the league to start, because they're still playing across the border, making all this money. So the league and the players need to sit down at some point and start acting like grown adults and figure this out. It's simple. It's very simple, but they're not making it simple at all.
FD1, have you heard about Project B where you are in France? And two, if you have, what are you thinking about it?
Honestly, I didn't hear about it, but when you were talking, I just double checked quickly to be sure to understand what it was, and I think this is an amazing project. It is playing not at the same time of the WNBA, but from November to April, and player will get more money. And if I'm a player, it's all about money. It's all about I am doing the job. I want to get the money that we had made to earn. I think that would be great for players to have this tournament. They will have equity on the league. So if the league take more value, they will have more money too. And the great thing is that I think it's not in the same time of the WNBA. So player can play both. The only problem is that it will have a big impact on European basketball because sometimes WNBA player during when they are not playing the WNBA during the season they play in Europe or in Asia, and that make the league very competitive. And if you have a league like Project B coming, I think it will have an impact on the international basketball.
Yeah. Robert, I'm going to close off with you. The language. So we've been a part of negotiations. We've advised, we've counseled, we've reacted. But Rebecca Lobo does have a point in terms of sometimes we have to rephrase evaluations to say what we need to say, but not say what we need to say. When you see all of this, plus the unrivaled ratings aren't where they were last year, I'll just say it that way. How are you thinking about all of this?
You know, I mean, we've talked about this, and we've talked about you know, the WNBA is kind of they're kind of at a Rubicon where what how they handle this and how things go forward if they lose any work time, how the potential impacts of that. And I think that the reason we have Unrivaled and the reason we have, you know, this this plan, you know, Project B, is because there are people see opportunities out there in women's sports, and they are willing to invest a great deal of money in them. And I understand that, but my question is when investors invest money, they expect to get money back.
Yeah.
And are they thinking that Project B, are they expecting that ticket and jerseys and all of that type of revenue is going to justify that investment? Because I would be very interested to see that, because I do see, you know, I see some international basketball, you know, videos that come through, and while I am not nearly the basketball international connoisseur that FD is, he would know if there are crowds that show up to games or not. The videos I see, ain't no crowds. So what's the, you know, what's the play there, I guess. The other thing that this makes me think about is, so you have the owners proposing, you know, we'll give you 70% of net revenue, which means after expenses and all, and the players want 30% of gross. What's the difference between those two numbers? Do any of you have any idea? Because I do not. And sports franchises traditionally do not open their books, but surely somebody can use a chat GPT model or something like that to actually demonstrate how far, excuse me, how far the players and the owners are apart. Because if it's a 9-digit number with 2 commas in it, that's significant. If it's a low 8-digit number that starts with a 1, maybe not so much. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the finances of these, you know, I don't know enough about finances for, you know, franchises. But that would be a question for me. I mean, how far apart are they really? Do we have any idea? Does anybody have any idea? And from the way things are going, I would submit probably not.
All right. So fans, as we close, it's a to use Tony Kornheiser, a melancholy day for me. So Temple assistant Bill Courtney passed away this past week at 55. BC is one of the people, was one of the people that I was closest to in college basketball. And when you coach, you're all over the place. And guys move from town to town, city to city, and there's a lot of artificial relationships because if you don't have a player, we don't have conversations and whatever. But BC wasn't that guy. He was the lead recruiter for Fowler and at George Mason. And the funny thing is, he actually wasn't at George Mason when they went to the Final Four. I sat next to BC during those games, and we were just rooting for Fowler because it was not just about recruiting. It was a good kid and a bunch of good kids, and they were doing good. BC is from our DMV area. He coached at American. He coached at Bowling Green, coached at Mason, coached at Providence, coached at Virginia, coached at Virginia Tech, coached at DePaul, was the head coach at Cornell. And I didn't even know he was at Temple. Again, we get busy. And a lot of times, as Robert saw last year, the Final Four is when we all, hey, catch up. And I was just so looking forward to just hanging out with my friend. So to his family, I send my best. To our coaching family, I send our best. Man, that's a loss. And yeah, I'm shook by this one. And he's just a couple of years older than me, so he's big brother. So I had to get that out of the way. So on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and watching the Odd Coaches podcast, the global authority on coaching leadership, and we will see you on the sidelines. And don't forget, we're also seen on the Cascade Sports Network. Thank you so much for letting me just share about my friend, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on the X platform at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Keith Adams and the CKA Save Project on social media at CKA Save Project. For more information about the CKA Save Project, visit them on the web at www.cksaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.